If you're not a bird, the act of flying is carefully calculated, with no margin of error. In the widely popular sport of paragliding, a flyer must understand the equipment and the weather, and above else, they must have the nerve to run off the edge of a hillside. This isn't a hard sport to learn. That's why Northwest Outdoors is in Kashmir, Washington, at the Airplay Paragliding School. This flight park is where beginners come to learn this sport from some of the best paragliders in the business. Run by 2002 Paraglider of the Year, Dixon White, Airplay Paragliding specializes in the instruction of the beginner and the intermediate pilot. Instructor Doug Stroop paraglides around the world when he's not teaching here at the flight park. On this day, the weather cooperates with light breezes, allowing beginning flyers to test their nerves. One of these beginners is Northwest Outdoors adventure host Sarah Eisen, who has always wanted to experience the simplest form of human flight.
Well, you turn right and left by pulling on the specific toggle, but how do you, are these the brakes that bring you down?
Well, nothing, but you come down when it's time to come down.
Oh, really?
You can't pull, so you can't be flying along and say, I want to come down now, and make it stop. It doesn't work that way. So.
Okay, so it's when the wind currents are deciding to bring you.
Well, this thing is always descending. I mean, it's always sinking.
Okay.
So what happens, though, is you have a certain amount of lift that's being provided by the canopy. So you have a glide ratio. So you're flying down this hill, and you're always descending, but the hill's dropping away too. And then there's sometimes you're going to hit little pieces of lifting air, then you're going to hit little pieces of sinking air on the back side of that. It's going to set you down. As you're coming down, you have to add brakes. And then if you're going to come in and land, you actually have to flare. And flaring is what sets you down nice and smooth.
Okay, and that's these, the C's.
Nope, that's these little jobbies right here.
Oh, okay. We're not even there yet, so I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's all right. First thing we're going to do is you're going to go ahead and hang on to these A's right here.
Okay.
And you're going to inflate this thing. And so those are out like that. We're just going to bring this up nice and smooth so the glider comes up. Release. Go to these rears. Right there. Hang on to these right here. That's all right. Just hang on to the whole thing. There you go. Nice. Just let that thing hang out there for a minute. Stepping left a little bit. Step left. There you go. Hands up a bit more, back up, step right over here, add a little brake on this side, both of them, and pull it down. Excellent, nice work. So you just got to fly that thing up over your head. What you notice is the less is more. A lot of times the less input you do, the better this thing likes it. So what we have here, this is our training slope we call Whisper. It's got a nice, smooth, gentle slope, as you can see down through here. And we use what we call anabatic flow. It's just a warm breeze that's generated by the sun, just kind of flows up the hill here. And we get a nice 5 to 8, maybe 9 mile an hour breeze that we can use. It's nice and smooth for practicing bringing the gliders up and learning the launch sequence, the launch, and then we get some little skimmer flights going down. I've got 2 or 3 other students here, and we're just kind of working on just the basics of learning how to launch and land. So, what we're going to do again, Sarah, here is just some more of the same stuff. We're just going to be bringing this thing up. What we just want to perfect is this launch sequence. And this is kind of one of the hardest parts because you have to get this glider to come up straight every time and then get turned around, and so that we're heading down the hill and keeping the glider directly up over our heads. Okay, release, turn around, turn to me, and take a few steps forward. Okay, stop right there. Just back up. All right, nice and smooth. Here we go. Glider comes up. Release, turn around, move forward, run forward, add a little brakes. There we go, hands up a bit. Hands up, up. Okay, back up a bit. All right, this feels good. Nice and smooth, here we go. Glider comes up. Okay, release, turn around, move forward. Keep running forward, hands up a bit, hands up. There we go.
And after just a few inflations, Sarah made it happen.
Feet together for me, if you get off the ground. Hands up. And flare. Flare. Hold the flare, hold it. Now turn to the right quickly. Pulling the flare down. Congratulations, nice work. How'd you like that?
Pretty fun.
Pretty cool, huh?
That was great, had a good time. Start going sideways feels a little different, but yeah, I can see how people can get addicted to this.
We're gonna keep on moving. You get lofted, keep those feet together. We're gonna steer this to the middle of the valley here. Steer it towards the middle. Hands up. A little bit of both brakes as you come down. Feather the brakes, nice and smooth. Hands up a little bit, And a little bit of right brake. Excellent. Hands up a little bit, nice and smooth. A little bit of right brake. A little bit of both brakes. Look down the hill at what we're looking at. Nice work. And flare. Hold that flare, hold the flare down. Now rotate right quickly, holding the flare. Nice work. Excellent. That was a good one. You're up there a ways.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was fun.
Airplay specializes in training entry-level pilots to achieve a rating. With a rating, human flight can take place anywhere. Introduction to the sport only takes 2 days of instruction. With some further instruction, you can only get better. Doug says watch out because paragliding is quite addictive.
It's amazing to fly. I mean, you're sitting in this harness, and it's nothing more than like just a kind of a webbing lazy boy. You're sitting in this chair. It's fairly comfortable. You're reclined a little bit, and you have a hold of these what we call control toggles or brake toggles. And if you want to go right, you pull the right one. If you want to go left, you pull the left one. It also incorporates the ability to move your body one direction or the other. So as well as pulling on the right toggle, you can actually lean with your body, and it brings the glider around in this very nice smooth arc. And it's just, to me, it's the closest feeling I could ever imagine of actually flying. It's free flight. You're not, I mean, everything fits in a backpack that weighs about 30 pounds or so, maybe 40 pounds. You can hike it up the top of a hill and you can fly it down. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about, you know, how far flight has come in the last number of years. And paragliding's really only been around about 10 or 12 years or so, and it's progressed quite a ways in just the last 5 or 6.
When pilots get through the next stage of any advancement, more confidence and maneuverability follows. At the flight park, there is a shuttle available, allowing multiple flights on a given day. That's when the fun really begins. This is the top of Dawn's launch, where intermediate and advanced pilots take off.
So this is Dave. I'm just burning off altitude for my final approach here over the park. Just making some nice 360s, coming in, burning the altitude, monitoring the wind direction, and I'll be landing out of the west, flying into the east headwind.
What makes flying so neat is that you're totally focused. I mean, you're just completely focused on what you're doing. It is kind of, for a lot of people, myself included, kind of this religious experience. I mean, you're flying and it's amazing. I mean, you can see all over the place. You have this this kind of feeling of just there's really not any boundaries. I mean, you're just up there. You can fly wherever you want to go, and it's a real feeling of freedom, and it's pretty amazing. So it's a lot of fun.
Paragliding at the Airplay Flight Park in Central Washington can certainly be unique. On a so-so weekend, it's possible to get dozens of flights. On a good weekend, you might be satisfied with a 3-hour, 20-mile cross-country flight. So the next time you look up and see a paraglider, just think, with less time than learning to drive a car, that could be you.
That's it now, just keep my eye on my spot where I plan to land, and I'll be coming in making an aggressive flare, meaning full both brakes.
Coming up, head to Bend, Oregon and explore some underground volcano tubes. But first, here is a survival quick tip from Peter Cummerfield on emergency fire building.
I've been a survival instructor for over 35 years. And there's a few things I've learned along the way. The first thing is you better have your gear with you. Maybe you don't want to carry a big pack. Maybe you can just carry a small pack like this, in which you have a whistle. The voice is a lousy signal. You can blow a whistle all day long. A metal match for starting fires. A couple of match cases, one filled with matches and the second filled with Vaseline-soaked cotton balls. Some flagging tape to indicate to other people where you are. A large plastic bag for a signal, and a signal mirror. It's not much, but it is firecraft, sheltering, and signaling. And those are the 3 vital components, 3 vital pieces of equipment that you need to survive an unplanned night out. The ability to build a fire is the most important survival skill. It gives you light, heat, warmth, the ability to signal, tremendous morale factor. Everybody needs to learn how to start a fire. And in order to do that, you need a heat source. And matches are probably the most common heat source. REI matches, Recreational Equipment Incorporated, the best matches. There are lots of them out there, but get REI matches. I mean, look at the size of that. With a match this size, you can build a fire. It's totally waterproof. I mean, you can dunk it in water, wipe it off, it'll light. Very windproof. The other heat source that you ought to have is a metal match. And there's all kinds of metal matches available out there, but really that's all you need. This is pyrophoric metal. Metal that when you scrape produces a very hot spark. With that spark, you can light tinder. With a match of this size, you can start hundreds of fires. A matchbox, you may have 20 or 30 matches, which for most people might mean 4 or 5 fires. But here you have something that's not affected by water, by air pressure, by temperature, by anything. This is an extremely important part of your survival equipment. Now, you need something to light, and I would recommend that you carry that material, that initial tinder, with you rather than counting on going out into the timber or the forest lands and gathering up materials there, which may or may not be available. What do I recommend? I recommend going down to your local drugstore and getting a big bag of cotton balls, and make sure they're cotton, not synthetic. Polyester doesn't burn worth a darn. Cotton burns very well. And a large jar of Vaseline. What is Vaseline? Vaseline is petroleum jelly. All right, what are we going to do with this? Well, you're going to take a cotton ball and you're going to fluff it up. Get it nice and loose. Okay? Fluff it up really well. And then a large fingerful of Vaseline. You really can't put too much Vaseline in it. And smear it in, work it around until there's no dry cotton left. And then when you've got it all completely saturated, and then you store the cotton ball in a screw top match case. I like screw tops because the lid won't come off. And then when you want to start a fire, you take a cotton ball out, and once again you fluff it up. You've got to make sure it's nice and fluffy. You've got to get air in there. For a fire you need 3 things. You need heat, you need oxygen, and you need something to burn. So we're at the point now where we can ignite that very easily with a match or with a metal match. Let me show you how to do that. Practice getting a spark a couple of times, and then direct your spark directly down into the cotton. And as soon as the cotton is burning, then take your finest material, lean it against the brace, this being the brace, and the cotton now begins to ignite your very smallest pieces of firewood there. And as it burns through that first stage, then you take the next largest side and lay it across at 90 degrees and allow it to burn through that stage. Notice each layer is laid on the previous layer at 90 degrees. This ensures good oxygen flow. Be careful where you build your fire. You don't want to burn yourself out of your camp. Select a nice area that's free from other flammable materials. Use a windbreak. I'm using a log as a windbreak right now. Put a base down, build a brace, and then ignite your tinder, and layer by layer. Fires are built, they're not started.
As recent as 1,500 years ago, this area was a bed of ash and glassy magma. This is the high desert floor near the base of the 2,500-foot dormant Newberry volcano. Known today as the Big Obsidian Flow, this area is covered in hidden underground volcano tubes. Near the town of Bend, Oregon, naturalist and guide Dave Nissen loves to give tours of some of these special features left behind by this volcano. Nissen runs Wanderlus tours, and along with his wife Alita, they specialize in educating the public about the nuances of these unique underground features. Northwest Outdoors is along for a small tour of Boyd Cave, with an entrance that can be hard to find.
So you guys, welcome to wonderful Boyd Cave, out here on Central Oregon's high desert landscape. Boyd is Boyd is one of the fabulous caves that we have out here on the high desert. There's over 100 of these caves, what we call lava tubes out here. And we just came down into the mouth of the cave. Wherever you have an entrance, it's called the mouth. It could also be called the collapse area, because the only reason that that hole is up there is that was where the rock gave way and collapsed, creating the hole. There are hundreds of caves also out here on the high desert that we don't even know about because we don't have any collapses yet to recognize it. So what we're going to do today is go down deep into the belly of the earth here, explore probably about 1,600 feet worth of Boyd Cave, do some belly crawls and that kind of stuff. It's really fabulous. And all of this beautiful black basaltic rock, it all came from Newberry Volcano, which lies to the south of us. So yeah, let's go do it. So you guys, as we're walking through the cave here today, make sure and watch your step. Not only watching your feet, but also keep your eyes above you on the rocks to make sure that you don't hit your head here. Basaltic rock is a heck of a lot harder than your skull. What Wanderlus ends up being able to provide is a means not only to get out here and show the people where these caves are, but we provide a safe journey for the people to explore this, providing the people with the gear that they need, the proper lighting and that type of thing to go down and explore. And what we hope to do is help people understand more about the cave's formation once they get in here, to be able to recognize some of the wonderful nuances like drips, lava drips from the ceiling, and feeling the air rushing through the cave and why that happens, not just, wow, it's blasting me in the face, but help people understand why that happens, help people understand the micro ecosystems that exist out here with all of the lichens around the mouth of the cave because of the cold air mixing with the warm air. Some of the animals that find refuge in this place, they call it home, and why it's important to preserve the home of the critters that live here. It is an amazing spot that most people would never really recognize to come out to, and hopefully what we do on our tours is share a little bit of that information so that the people go home saying, man, that's a pretty amazing spot to go and visit. So you guys, the formation of this lava tube is something to be marveled at. It's absolutely incredible. We talked a little bit ago about Newberry Volcano, one of the largest volcanoes on the lower 48 states down here. And it's been erupting for, well over 1 million years. And all of this lava that comprises this cave is basaltic lava, andesitic basalt. And when it flows out of a volcano, it flows very fluidly, unlike some other lavas that when it comes out of a volcano it's really sticky and it just builds up big heaps. This stuff flows so fluid because it has less silica in it that makes it flow more rapidly. As the lava at the leading edge begins to cool, it will begin to form dikes on either side of it, levees on the side of the lava flow. And it begins to build up, while down in the center of that lava flow it still flows hot and fluid. But it builds up levees on the side, and eventually it just crusts itself over the top, while once again it's still flowing hot and molten down inside of the tube. When the source of the lava stops at the volcano, this tube will simply just drain itself right out, and you're left with this magnificent hole. Now, if you guys take a close look right up here on the wall of the lava tube, as the lava began to lower its presence here in the cave, all of that hot, sticky basaltic lava began to cool and drip in the process, leaving these fabulous little dips and pock marks and drip marks all over the side of the cave. And if you touch it, it's absolutely rough. It's very harsh to one's skin. That's partially because of the cooling process and how it spatters when it does that, but it's also got 55% glass in this rock, which also, makes it fairly sharp.
Up and over.
Most of the exploring is slow walking, but there are plenty of obstacles to climb over or crawl under.
So you guys, here's one of the fabulous belly crawls deeper down into the cave. Get a load of the wind beating on you as you come down through this narrow constriction. we are just about at the very end of the cave. If you want to squeeze your way down in here, watch your head. Once we get back into the back of the cave here, just kind of hang out for a little bit. I want to show you guys what absolute silence is like and what the pitch dark really looks like. So let me invite you to just be as quiet as you can, try and be as still as you can, and if you'd like, turn off your lights here for a couple of minutes. And this is the darkest spot that you will ever be in your life. There is no darker, even, you know, at nighttime, even on a moonless night. There are caves scattered around the west that if someone isn't in Bend, but you find yourself up near Mount St. Helens, Ape Caves are a wonderful place to visit. If you're down in Northern California around the Mount Shasta area or just south of Klamath Falls, there's some beautiful lava tube formations down at Lava Beds Monument down there. So keep your eyes open. You know, if you're traveling about, you're not in Bend, and you want to go take a look at some caves, there are others that exist. Out here on the high desert, there's more caves than we can count. We really don't have an idea of how many caves are out here. Of course, the ones where you have an opening, where you have a ceiling collapse that enables us to come down into these caves, those we can find. But there are many, many caves out on the desert that we never have found simply because there's no collapse. We don't know that they exist.
Some of these high desert caves close during parts of the year because of bat activity. With Dave as a guide, you will learn where and what caves are accessible. He has a list of do's and don'ts while caving. While graffiti and trash are growing problems, he says you especially don't want to build fires.
So yeah, shouldn't burn. You know, oftentimes they'll find fire pits in caves, and that's not too good. You got to imagine if you're a bat hanging out in a cave and you start putting carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide and soot inside the cave, that's going to be pretty hard for a little critter to breathe. It's like us sitting inside a closed garage with the automobile running, and it kills bats in the caves and other critters that live in here. So shouldn't build fires and shouldn't shoot fireworks, and, you know, do's and don'ts, things like that. The caves are here to enjoy for their absolute splendor.
This show ends with a 2-minute tip on what to do if you're lost in the outdoors.
One of the things that a lot of adults and young children don't realize is when they're walking through the woods, for instance, children chasing a squirrel, they're not paying attention to what their surroundings are. So the further they get into the woods, for instance, that young child chasing that squirrel, then all of a sudden they stop, they start looking around, and they discover they don't know where they are. Well, the first thing that you want to do is stop dead in your tracks. If there's a tree nearby, make that tree your best friend. If you have to, hug that tree. Don't leave that tree, because in a lot of cases, people start wandering, they wander on and on, sometimes in circles, and they're never found. Once you discover that you're lost, stop. Fall in love with that tree. Make that tree your best friend. Hug that tree and stay there until somebody finds you. One of the things that happens when people are lost, they've found a place of security next to the tree, but they have to let somebody know where they are. And what is the best way to do that? Well, we can scream and we can yell until our voice finally disappears, and that's not going to take but just a few minutes. The one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to panic. The best tool anybody can have is a whistle. Adults have a whistle, children have a whistle. The international sign for I'm lost is to blow on a whistle 3 times. That's going to alert somebody at a good distance that there's a problem, that you're lost. A little common sense, a tree, a $2 whistle can save your life if you're lost in the woods.
Go on the World Wide Web and click on northwestoutdoors.org to learn more about this show, number 1612.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision